everybody, this is the one and only Joseph Matrix George. And we're going to be talking about his family practice that's going on right now. It's George and George ADR. We're going to get a lot of information, a lot of good insight about what his business is about. This is an arbitrator, negotiator, mediator, depends on whatever you need him to be for that day. But he is here, and we got him, and we're going to be talking about a lot. So first of all, I want to say thank you for your time today. Welcome to the podcast.
This is a great podcast, and I'm glad to be on it. And it's Happy New Year to you and your family.
Absolutely. So for starters, let's go ahead and dive into what is ADR and what is
alternative dispute resolution. It's another way of resolving disputes, whether it be business, contract disputes, construction disputes, employment disputes. So it's another way, and it breaks out in 3 different groups. Actually, it breaks out in a couple more groups, but we're going to talk about the main groups, which is arbitration, mediation, and negotiation. Those are the 3 main ones that people actually use to resolve disputes outside of the courthouse.
Absolutely. So this is interesting. You know, we're talking about resolving disputes and things like that. So I'm curious to know, how did all of this start?
You know, I was home right before the start. The start of COVID, and I was home, and a friend of mine was telling me how he got COVID started. He couldn't get chance to take his classes and things like that. And I was like, what kind of classes he was talking about? He told me about his mediation training that he was supposed to take, and I looked into it, and I was like, this seemed like something I could do, since I was out on knee surgery. So I was out on knee surgery, and I was lying in my bed on the medication. So I was like, I can't walk nowhere. So I might as well get trained in something.
Right.
So I looked it up, and one day the Supreme Court did the order to do virtual training. I jumped on the opportunity to do that, and I took it. And ever since then, I've been skyrocketing. Me and my sister, Valencia George, we both got trained at the same time, and we've been elevating our practice ever since. And now we're reaping the benefits of the practice and helping people in the community resolve their disputes.
Absolutely. That's an amazing story. The pandemic definitely sparked a lot of true entrepreneurs at heart to go out there and go get it. So as far as for you, what is the passion for what you do come in?
And grew up in a big family that I have. Is like nearly 11 of us. So, I always been the middleman resolving disputes between my brothers and sisters. So there you go. There's my first-hand training there.
Right. And then, I know it had to come from somewhere, that's for sure.
From that, I opened up a consultant business where I was helping salon and spas take their businesses to the next level. And then I started doing mergers and acquisitions for different companies. Mm-hmm. So that's where my negotiation skill came in on that part. So I've been on the business side, where we help businesses in the contract disputes. The mergers and acquisitions part, I've always been doing for years, negotiating contracts with businesses. So it was an easy transition from negotiator into mediation. Because negotiation is a whole different ballgame. Because you want a win-win side when it comes to negotiation. Mm-hmm. But with mediation, it's a little bit different type of style you have to do.
Yeah, I was about to say that, when it comes to negotiating, that's a little bit harder because both sides have to feel that they're winning. In a negotiation, it's not like, well, it's obvious I got more than you. It has to be an even ground for both sides. That's very interesting when I think about it. So when it comes to negotiating, what are some of the things that you find works best for you, and why people should choose you to represent them?
They should choose me, one, because I have a lot of experience backing me in different facets of the negotiation field. Because acquisitions, you're dealing with, when you walk in a room and you have a big firm, one of the Fortune 500 big companies, and they have 26 lawyers in the room, and you walk in with one side that they're going to acquire this business, and they only have 2 lawyers, and you got the other side with 15 lawyers, and nobody wants to budge. Mm-hmm. Then you have to pull them aside and say, listen, I need to talk to the lead person on the 26 firm attorneys and say, I need to talk to the lead person because we're making this complicated that it needs to be. But then you have to know your numbers too, and you have to do your research. And when I go into work with clients, I always do my research, especially when it comes to mergers and acquisitions. I always do my research to know what the companies is doing, whether it's on the stock market or in their business portfolio, what they grossed last year. That way I could know how to assist both parties and come into a win-win situation.
Gotcha. Okay. And so what does your typical client look like? You know, if I'm looking, like what type of people need a
everybody needs.
Help me with that.
If you're doing a big ticket item, you don't want to go in alone, especially again when I hate to use merger and acquisition all the time, but that's the one that when you acquiring a business, you don't want to go in there, or even if you're selling off a business to a big company, you don't want to go in alone. You want to go in there with experienced people, like an experienced negotiator, experienced attorneys who knows the ins and outs. You go in there by yourself, you might end up selling yourself short. So always need somebody with experience under your belt. Same as any type of mediation case. You need attorneys. With mediation, you don't always need an attorney, but it's good to have them there depending on the case. And it's a case by case because there's no cookie cutter when it comes to arbitration or mediation. There's no cookie cutter in it. So there's no template that says this is how it's going to go. Every time you have a case, it's always going to be completely different from the next.
You know, I think that's super cool, by the way, to like just walk in the building and say, oh, excuse me, talk to my negotiator. And then you walk right up in there like this superhero about to save the day. You know, I think that's awesome. So let's talk about arbitration a little bit and your role in that. How does that play into everything? Arbitration is different than mediation and negotiation. So when you're the arbitrator, you're pretty much the judge and the jury. So both parties actually plead their case in front of you. So they both sign a contract authorizing you to make a decision on their behalf because both of them couldn't seem to come to a resolution on their own. So what they do, they'll say, okay, we would like to do arbitration and present our case to an arbitrator and let a third party who has no ties to either one of them make a decision on their behalf. So when I sit down, I usually have them try to mail me out or give me all their documentation and statements and their position on what they want out of the arbitration. I'll usually mail that to me like maybe a week in advance. That way I have chance, because some cases are complex and I deal with a lot of complex cases. So I need a lot of time to review it before. So I review all the documentations on both sides. If I need to get a subject matter expert into it, then I'll bring in a subject matter expert just to help me understand a particular field of something that I'm not certain in. So I'll bring in a subject matter expert. And then once I listen to both sides, then what I do is I base my decision off of their statements, the law, because the law has to play a part in it too, and the facts and who and the opening and closing statement helps a lot too. Because sometimes even though they mail you out documentation, sometimes the day of they go, oh, by the way, I was meant to send this. Now, arbitration is different from negotiation because when it comes to that, there is somewhat of a winner and a loser in the situation, correct?
Depending on the case, we like to say split the baby down the middle. So sometimes if you could see, that one party wants this and the other party wants that, and you weigh out the options of what, the law states in their case and the facts that they presented in the case, then you actually say, I'm going to give this person this and I'm going to deny this person this. So it's kind of like splitting, like split the baby down the middle like
Got you. So in other words, there's some room for flexibility there that may not be available in an actual courtroom.
Because they authorize it.
Okay. Yeah. And so that's another reason why someone want to come to you.
Authorizing to speak that never happened. That's why celebrities like to use arbitration and mediation. A lot of big corporations like construction companies, they have arbitration clauses into their contracts. A lot of employment companies now is getting the wind of that. So now they're putting in, because litigation is so serious and a lot of companies don't want to go in front of the EEOC, they don't want to go in front of the Labor Department board. So what they do is now all these big corporations is including an arbitration clause into their employment applications now. So they could get ahead of that and they could close the cases out without going to court, because anything that goes to court is public knowledge.
Right. Definitely. And so with all of your experience and the stuff that you've done to learn everything that you are in your role and as your expertise now, what is something that you recommend people do when looking to hire you?
Like anybody, do your homework. I mean, they could go on our website and they'll see the type of stuff that we do, because we do more than just arbitration, mediation, and negotiation. We do other businesses. But if they look for a good arbitrator, just look at you want to hire somebody who has familiarity with the case that you want to resolve. That's the thing right there. You don't want to have a construction case and then get somebody who deals with family, because construction is so complex that you have different type of language in construction and different calculate and map different. And then sometimes with construction, like the construction complex arbitrations that I've had to actually go out on job sites to actually see exactly what both the subcontractor and the GC is talking about, or even the owner and the GC. So you can go back and forth. So some things you have to visually see, because pictures don't always tell you everything in construction.
Gotcha. Now that's deep. Now, from a person who has a lot of celebrities that come on this platform, I'm real interested in your perspective on why should a celebrity go through you? Like, what are some of the benefits if you had to market yourself to that niche of people? What would be some of the benefits you would speak about?
Celebrities. The biggest thing with celebrities and why they use mediation or arbitration is great for them is because they don't get to put their business out into the public eye. So arbitration and mediation is confidential. I have celebrities had me draft up an NDA, which is a non-disclosure agreement, just to have an extra layer of confidentiality. So on very narrow terms, even if somebody say they want to subpoena my mediation documents and notes, most would throw it out and say mediation is a confidential process. So they can't use whatever was said in mediation, they can't use it. So the confidentiality is a big plus for celebrities. They get to resolve their disputes without being in court. It's less costly, it's a lot quicker, and they could go back to doing what they do. And they could do it on their lunch break. That's the beautiful part. They could have an argument, say, let's do this over Starbucks coffee. And, we could zoom in and, have Teams or any other platform that they would like to use. And we could just have this conversation and resolve their dispute. And so it's a little bit unique because most of the times when I've done celebrities, it's a lot of dispute is resolved within in-house. It's not with a consumer or with their their groupies. Some people like to call them groupies. It's usually in-house. Sometimes they hire their mom as a manager, brothers, sisters, the accountant. They have family of, a childhood friend. Right. And then sometimes that childhood friend or whoever the family member feels like they're not being acknowledged, or that celebrity may feel like they're not being taken as serious, and disputes happen to arise among them. So mediation is a good way for them to say, listen, let's set lists, because both parties get a chance to actually state their position on what happened to help the other person understand why this dispute arise to both of them, and they could resolve it and still keep face and still keep that family friendship. And because sometimes they have to tell them in mediation, dependent with celebrities and business owners, you have to say, you got to separate church and state. You got to separate it. Business is business and friendship is friendship and family is family. You got to separate it. And a lot of people find it hard to separate that. So when they come to mediation and they sit down with me, I explain to them these things so they could resolve the dispute and still stay family, still stay friends, still stay business partners, and go on about their own merry day and back to business making money.
Wow, I don't know. When you were describing that, you just kind of came off as the Dark Knight to me. Like you're helping people out in their situation, and then you're like, it's in a way like I'm not even looking for the attention or anything. I helped you. Now I'm on to the next person I can help. And then everyone else get to keep it all private in a way where it's not being out there promoted in the media. And then you know how all the social media platforms picked up and get real ugly in those scenarios. So that's a huge benefit to a lot of celebrities, I'm sure. Not the name drop, but just as an example, Master P, his situation with his son that's going crazy right now on the blog. A situation like that with you could have definitely kept it under the radar, and that way they could have came to an agreement that works for everybody. So that's a big deal.
So, Master P, you need to call me.
Go ahead. All right, I heard that. Master P, you listening, go ahead and call him. He ready. So what are some of the types of disagreements that's most common?
A lot of contract is a breach of contract. Sometimes they get a contract, but they don't read the contract. And sometimes they, not knocking any of the template contract companies out there. I could name drop a couple of them, but I don't want to be into a legal battle with them because then I need to resolve my dispute.
Right.
Right. But a lot of people go and grab these templates from online, and like I'll use the entertainment industry and celebrities as an example. They need certain type of terms and conditions drafted into their contracts that those templates don't have. Those templates are good if you're a small business like a pressure washing company or landscape company. But when you have a lot of entertainment facets that goes into these contracts, you need a good contract attorney to draft those contracts and put these terms inside there. And also, even when somebody else drafts it, you still need a good attorney to read that contract, because even though you could read it, it's all about the terminology, how you interpret it. Attorneys could read it and be like, no, that's not a good thing. But you might have read the same thing the attorney read and be like, oh, I got a sweet deal. But the attorney might read it and be like, no, your interpretation is wrong. And the way they drafted this term inside here, you're going to be receiving less money. So when it comes to contracts, especially if you know you're going to be making over $1 million plus, you want to invest in a good contract attorney and sit down, have them review that contract. He might even say, you know what, even though this contract has been reviewed by another attorney, he might say, we need to put this type of clause or this other term inside of this contract just to protect you on the back end.
Right. Now, that makes me think, like, when it comes to the entertainment industry, contracts is key, like, for every part of it. So what words of advice would you give to somebody who's in a contract situation where they messed up? They didn't read it, they just signed it. Now they're in a bad situation where they need to figure out a way to get out of it. Are you guys able to assist with that as well?
I'm not an attorney, so I can't give advice, but what I can say is that, again, always seek out a good contract attorney, or you could actually call us up and we could actually work on your case and work closely with an attorney to help you resolve the dispute. But it's always good to have an attorney look it over, because you might get lucky and the other side might not even draft the contract under that state law. Because, see, a lot of people don't understand, even though a contract is drafted, there are certain state laws that has to go into effect into those contracts too. So the attorney would review that contract and see, the flaws in that contract, where you might even be able to get out of that contract.
Wow. People don't believe in the honor system anymore. It's just, hey, take my word for it.
I got you. I'm going to give you $1 million.
They're a long time, man. So it's so important what you're doing. And I'm happy that you were able to come up here to explain that to a lot of people, because honestly, like I said, you're like the Dark Knight. A lot of people might not even know you exist and that your services are out there. Speaking of your services, go ahead and elaborate on some other stuff that you also offer.
Grant writing. We offer immigration form services. We help them to fill out their immigration form. We offer notary services. But on our service side, for mediation and arbitration, we handle cases of for contracts, landlord and tenant disputes, construction disputes. We do lemon law disputes, which is a whole other beast right there. If you got a brand new car and something wrong with it, we handle those lemon law disputes also. But some people you have to go through the programs, like the Better Business Bureau has a program. I'm sure there's a couple other programs that's out there that they have to go through. But we have a whole list of services, and they could go on our website and see the different services we offer. They could go at www.george, A-N-D, which is and George, ADR.com. And see all those on there.
Absolutely. Now, go ahead and let them know as far as what are some of the reviews looking like for you, the people that you worked with in the past. What are they saying about you after working with you? What are some of the experiences you've had with some of your clients?
Like recently, we just had a client just now. I can't really say too much about the case, but it was we call it high asset dispute. So we call it high asset or high net worth dispute. So it was where the person was going through a whole process where they was going through a divorce, because we do separation of assets with divorces. We work with divorce attorneys, so we do the separation of asset part. And they was trying to work with the attorney and the other side, and then to find out that the other side was hiding some money in some a huge car collection. And then they still have the house, so they have a list. So when I do separation of asset with divorced couples or just couples in general, I like to get a list. I say, give me your wish list, and I tell the other side, give me a wish list. Then I sit down and I review, and I cross out what both don't need right away. And I make a list of prioritizing, and then I look at price ticket items and what they're both gonna fight for, and that's what I focus on. And then I go back to them and negotiate. Because sometimes with these type of disputes, you got the other person who's just want to be willful. They really don't want certain products, but because the other side, wants it, they want it. So that's how.
Right. It gets real personal.
But you got to know I tell people all the time, you got to read the room. You got to look at it, and you got to see exactly what the other party is working with, and you talk with them and say, hey, you really don't want that. You just want to be mean to that person. I say, if you're saying you really don't want to be with this person, then let them have it and go on about your life. Let's say a Monet. Now, it's a Monet picture, but that's a whole different ballgame. We gotta figure out the financial costs and selling that picture, and then reaping the benefits of the costs.
Right.
Yes.
Now, you guys are located in Jacksonville, Florida.
Our services is international too, so we work with international clients. We have clients in Dubai. We're working with an Indian firm right now that actually has a dispute with another company here in the United States. So so we got cross borders.
Wow.
We do it.
Not bragging or nothing, guys. Just international. Just a little bit of international stuff going on here. But listen, that's awesome, man. So I just want to say I appreciate you so much for coming through to the podcast, man. Is there anything out there that you really want people to get from this interview?
Is a peaceful process and easy process to go through than going through litigation. You could resolve disputes through mediation. You could go on your state's website and look up mediators. If you go to court and you have a dispute in court, you can actually, depending on the state you're in, you could actually ask the judge and say, hey, I would like to see about resolving this dispute through mediation. Because attorneys is going to kill me when I say this, but attorneys love litigation. Let's put it, that's how they make their money. Mediation is easier on the pocket for people. But if you cannot resolve your dispute in mediation, then try arbitration. So you could start off with mediation, and then you could transcend into arbitration. You say, listen, both of us can't resolve this, and let's go from mediation. Let's try arbitration. Let's put it in the hands of somebody else who could hear a dispute and who could resolve this for us. And then and it has to be binding, because arbitration is non-binding and arbitration is binding. If it's not binding, mean that somebody hear your case and give you the facts, and they made a decision on your case for you. So at least you have a footing if you do want to go to litigation. When it's binding, now it's a contract that's drafted up by the arbitrator and it's sent out to the parties, and it's a binding contract. So that means that the decision is final. So only on very, very narrow terms will a court overturn an arbitrator's decision, because an arbitrator is pretty much just like a judge. So they're judge and jury. So it's very, and most of the time, arbitrators are ex-judges or subject matter experts like me or attorneys. So we all know the field that we're in and how to base the decisions off of our knowledge and expertise. So the takeaway of this is try mediation first if you have a dispute. If you can't resolve it in mediation, you could do hybrid, because there's hybrid out there also. You could do hybrid where mediation, you could convert mediation and negotiation, where the arbitrator could negotiate, blend it into you, give you a lot of different suggestions. If that don't work, try arbitration, because it's a whole less arbitrating your case than going to court and litigation. And now this attorney, you have to pay attorney up front, sometimes $2,000-$3,000 just for them to listen to your case, not go to court yet, just to listen to see if you have a case. And if you have a case, and then you have to go to court, now you have to pay a retainer fee. And some attorneys are expensive. Retainer fees could go from $3,000 to $10,000. And your case is only worth $1,000.
Right.
Yeah,
kind of
counterproductive. And I know everybody like to scream, I'm going to court. You're going to see my lawyer. Okay. But what they don't get, that sometimes when you go to court with a good attorney, if they win, that attorney could turn to the judge and say, Your Honor, we won our case here and we would like the other side to pay the attorney fees. So now the whole thing of you trying to prove a point just costs you.
It's so serious, man. When you really get in there in the court and you see the legal side of things, it don't always play out the way you
like
thought it would. That's for sure. Exactly. Now, I do have a question, since we were talking about how expensive things can be. What are some of the benefits to working with you when it comes to the cost?
Oh, the cost, like I said, mediation and arbitration is a very low cost process. I'll just put out there, some mediators, not me, but some mediators, I'll give you a price range anywhere from $150 an hour to $450 an hour. It all depends on the arbitrator and their skill level. I've been doing this for a while now. I'm still young in the field, but my background experience is vast. And combination of my sister and our team, we have extended knowledge and we have a lot of resources that we actually could pull to make sure that your case is handled with care.
Absolutely. That's such an important thing, man. And now me personally, whenever I'm trying to work with somebody new, I always look up a company and I look up their mission statement. I don't know if people still do this. Maybe I'm old school, but I love to know what the company is about at heart, because usually that's going to translate through to the customer experience you're going to have with dealing with this company. Especially if it's a brand new company or somebody you've never heard of before, you really want to check out the mission statement so you at least know what kind of standards they do have. So when it comes to George and George ADR Group, what is you guys' mission statement?
Our mission,
what are you
we are
all
a boutique
about?
firm, so our mission is all about resolving disputes for our customers. Even though we're a small firm, we still do the same thing the big firms do, except we take more care into our clients. We focus on our clients. We don't try to get a whole 100 of clients. We focus on the one particular client. So we're not leapfrogging from client to client trying to resolve the dispute. When we got a client, we focus on that client and make sure that they're heard and make sure that they understand all the facts of their case and what they're getting into and how we're going to position ourselves to resolve their dispute. So we make sure our clients it's that next level of service that we give to our clients.
Got you. I love it. Listen, man, I appreciate you so much for coming through. This is Joseph George. Is that correct? Matrix. Joseph Matrix George. What does the Matrix stand for?
I was good with computers back in the days.
For?
I used to do a lot of computer stuff and with networking and things like that. So I got that name and I got stuck with it ever since. And I had the name before the movie came out. Maybe I should have.
Maybe
trademark.
you were in the Matrix. I love it. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming through the King Legend Talk. It's an honor to have you here today. I definitely think a lot of people is going to benefit from this interview and the services you guys also offer for everyone. So keep up the good work. I know I'm going to see you up there on a big top list with some big name celebrities you can't even disclose to us, but definitely looking
And if people want
to
to
you
check us,
continue to
Google
do
my
your
name,
thing.
they'll see all the different articles and magazines that we've been in also. So they could just Google Joseph George /mediator, and I'm sure a whole bunch of articles is going to pop up that we've been in different interviews also.
Absolutely. And for the people that missed it the first time, they can go to georgeandgeorgeadr.com to find out more information, or you can contact them at 407-855-9865. Alrighty, and that's George, and that's spelled A-N-D, georgeadr.com.
How could you be a king and a legend, boy? That's a big one, huh?
It ain't enough to just be a king.
And you got the lion in the background, boy. You's a dangerous guy, man.
You are put through the fire. The only thing that kept me going was I knew it was going to happen. I believed it was going to happen.
So I used to print out that list, and I would put my name at the top. I would white out the person on the top, and I'd put my name. And I would print out that list, and I'd keep it in my pocket for the next 4 months. Until one day, the email that I got had my name at the top.